Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Think and Grow Show. This is Brad Parnell, the founder of Genie Rocket, and this is the podcast that dives into actionable insights and practical advice for growing your business, both online and offline. Whether you're passionate about marketing, innovation, or entrepreneurship, this is your go-to place for real strategies to help you thrive and take your business to the next level. Let me introduce you to today's guest. We have David Adams here, who's going to teach us the 6 habits of high performers. So I'm going to give a quick intro to David here, and then he can fill in some gaps. And I'm so excited for us to jump in, guys. David's been very impactful for my life. He's my personal coach, helping me become a better high performer. And I can't wait for you to hear these 6 habits and how you can achieve them in your own life. So David's led teams of various sizes. He's served as the GM in big box retail stores and spoken to audiences of thousands across the United States. He's a certified high performance coach from the High Performance Institute, runs his own coaching company. He coaches experienced executives and entrepreneurs and is living into his dreams every day and models the journey for everyone that he coaches. He inspires leaders to embrace people stewardship so that the teams take personal responsibility for their own growth and development, bringing transformation through certified high performance coaching, communication, and leadership training. He's got a dynamic way of presenting lessons he's learned, leading teams and speaking to audiences over the last 30 years. And his mantra is people stewardship through personal leadership. So guys, welcome David to the show. David, thanks so much for being here, my friend.
That was my absolute pleasure. I'm excited, man. Let's get started. Let's go. Right.
Yeah,
So
let's get
everybody listening to this podcast right now, when we start talking about the high performance habits, what does high performance actually mean to you? I think if we start with your definition of high performance and what that actually means, Brad, why don't we start with that? Just what is your definition of high performance?
Man, put me on the spot. I like this. So my definition is going beyond our own limiting belief or maybe expectations of what we're supposed to do, what others think we're supposed to do, what we think we're supposed to do, and trying to find that next level gear and not only do that once, but do it consistently, make that our new normal.
Yeah, heck yeah. So when we start looking at high performance, look, it means something different to everybody, right? And most of you, if you're actually listening to this podcast, chances are you are a high performer. But there may be a category or two where we're a little bit deficient, where we're like, wait a minute, I'm not hitting on all cylinders. What's missing? There's something that's not quite right. What is that thing that just isn't just not hitting right? So we want to cover some of these principles to help figure out where the gap is. And then hopefully some of the things that we talk about here will bridge that gap for you. I mean, literally, Brad, you already know we could talk about this for 24 hours straight and not get to all the material and all the information that people need on this topic. But that's okay. We're going to dig in. And in fact, if your audience sends you back feedback of like, you know what, we really want more of this. We want to know a little bit more about clarity, or we want to know more about energy. Great. We can deep dive into something like that, right? So let's start though with, where are you? If we can get crystal clear with where we actually are, and when we start talking about where are you, I'm talking about who are you as an individual? What do you stand for? What are you all about? What are all the events in your life that have made you who you are today? Because so many times, a lot of people, you've probably met these people. Tell me if you met these people, Brad, these people that live in the past. Like, that's where they live. They're always in the past. Oh, I remember back in high school when we had this time, this happened back then. Or, oh my gosh, my parents were so bad. They treated me horribly. I was a short, fat kid. I was abused. I was all of the nonsense. And we live there. And we make excuses for why we haven't achieved the things that we want because of what happened in the past. We blame other people. We blame other circumstances for our lack of performance today.
Mm.
And chances are, if you're listening to this, that's not you. However, we run into these people every single day. So if we can take people into the past, figure out what was the lesson. Like there was a lesson in the past. What was it? We bring the lesson to the present. Now, once we brought the lesson here, we don't have to go back there anymore. We're done. We never have to go back there again because we brought that lesson that made us stronger into the present moment with us right now. And if we can bring that to where we are now, now we're clear, we've got some clarity on what happened in the past and how that benefited us today. So we're looking for, as Napoleon Hill talks about, that seed of equal or greater equivalent, right? In the negative things that happened, there was always a seed of equal or greater equivalent coming out of it. What was it? What was that gem that we brought to the present moment with us? So, Brad, tell me about just a situation in your life where you went in the past. There was something back there, something crazy happened, but you brought that lesson, and you had to figure out what that might be.
Oh man, this is like a live on the spot coaching session. I love it. So I would say for me, as I was growing teams, I grew to like 15 full-time employees and was trying to learn kind of where my gifting and sweet spot was. Was it managing people? Was it being a manager? Or was it doing the work? Or was it somewhere in between? So I think it took me, 15 full-time people, and my full-time job became like HR and a manager. And I realized like this is not I am not making a greater impact in the world. I think some people have that gift, but I quickly realized that's not where I was supposed to be. And so I've been able to take that lesson with me as I've restructured and regrown to make sure that I don't repeat that. And that doesn't mean it's not great for everybody, but that I know that from that experience, the gold nugget that I learned was like that's just not my gifting and skill set. So I'm not going to repeat that same thing again.
Powerful, because when we start to recognize there are certain things that serve us and there are certain things that do not. And a lot of people are like, oh, you quit. Brad, you're a quitter. I can't believe you quit. No, 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 no. Brad looked at what his skill set was, and that wasn't it. So rather than spend time and money developing the skill set that he didn't need to do, it's easier for him to outsource all of that and not have to worry about the headaches of the drama and nonsense that people bring into the office. And having run big box retail stores, brother, I get what you're coming from. I
Oh
understand it,
man.
right? Because now
Yeah.
you're bringing in HR and you're bringing in, anyway, there are a lot of layers of leadership that end up coming into play if we want to lead people well in the workplace, which is where, that whole people stewardship through personal leadership comes from, is the fact that we have to lead ourselves well, or we're not going to be able to lead anybody. And don't get me wrong, Brad, you lead yourself exceptionally well. You and I both know this. You have great habits that you've developed. You have a fantastic family. You've got a business that is growing exponentially right now. Like, you're doing things right. So to celebrate you, man, double high five across the board, right? You're probably giving yourself high fives in the mirror every morning for how well
Oh
you're doing.
man.
And I love that. But you're very crystal clear on what you're good at and what you're not good at. That's what we're talking about here. How clear are we? And you've gotten very clear with the past and brought it into the present. Now, what I want everybody to do is go into the future. What does your ideal future look like? As if it has already happened. What is it? What are the places that you're traveling to? What are your what big dreams do you have? You're going to own a piece of the New York Yankees, right? I mean, when you talk about Patrick McDavid, at one point he wrote it down on his dreams list: own the New York Yankees. And lo and behold, if the opportunity didn't show up for him to purchase a piece of the New York Yankees, right? Because they're these new I don't even know what you call them anymore. Almost like, I guess, cohorts where you go in and you're able to buy. You pull your money together and you're able to buy pieces of things that you just wouldn't be able to buy on your own, right? But now all of a sudden the opportunity is there and his dream is fulfilled because he got to buy a piece of the New York Yankees. I think that's freaking
Amazing.
brilliant, right? So
Amazing.
you put things on your list. Where are you going? What is your mission? Man, I'm on a mission to eliminate disrespectful leaders. Why? Because I hate them. I hate them with a passion. Disrespectful leaders, man, if I could, I'd take them all. Never mind. I'm not going to say that. we'll back it up just a little bit. But they got to go, right? They have to go because they're destroying the companies that they work for. And more importantly, they are destroying the people that are working in the companies that they work for. And there's just no place for it. They don't need to do it. What we need to do is decide what we want and then do the work. Decide and do. So what is it that you want? What are you on a mission to achieve? Man, I'm on a mission to run a coaching seminar, to be involved in a coaching seminar with my mentor, Brendan Burchard. It's on my list. It's right here. Literally, that's something on my list that I'm doing, right? Also, what's in your learning curriculum? What is it that you are trying to develop and aspire to? Where are you going? How much money are you making? What does your family life look like? Let's dig into that for a second, because if we could get clear on literally all of our goals and all of the categories of life that we are in, from our are we clear about our mission? What about our family? What about our finances? All of these areas and categories that if we were to really dig in and go, okay, do I really know where I am in these categories? And Brad, I'm gonna go through these categories if you don't think it's gonna take too much
Let's
time to do so,
go. Yeah.
because these categories are important, I think, for everybody to think about. So if we think about your health, how clear are you with where you are with your health and where you want your health to go? How clear is your health? By the way, if you find yourself at this point in time where you're 200 pounds overweight, okay, your health probably not where you want it to be. If you find yourself that maybe you're taking a lot of medication, your health is probably not where you want it to be. Okay, so if we know where we are, where our health is, then we can also get a good idea of, okay, what do I want my health to look like? Well, let's start with where you are. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. What level is your health? Second, your mental and emotional health. Different than your physical health, even though your mental and emotional health absolutely affects your physical health. Would you agree with me there?
Absolutely.
Right? So when we start looking at that, we want to make sure that we get ourselves rated. Where are we on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. How is your mental health? What about your love life? What about your spouse, your partner, your person? How is that relationship on a scale of 1 to 10? And when we think about that, and if you're single, how good do you want your relationship to be? But I would reiterate that as to how good is the relationship that you have with yourself. Because it's going to be very difficult to attract a 10 if you yourself are not a 10. So what are we doing about it, right? What about family? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your family like? By the way, if you don't know, you're like, well, I don't know. What's my family supposed to be like? Exactly. That's the point. If you don't know what you want it to look like, how in the world can it ever look like that? So that's why we're talking about it. Friends, some of you don't have any, and you're alone, and you're marching through this world by yourself. Nobody understands you. You don't have friends. You don't have colleagues. You're doing it alone. That's a problem, because you have an opportunity to curate your own friends list, your own friends. But let's think about that for a second. On a scale of 1 to 10, what level would you place your friends? By the way, if you stopped drinking 3 years ago and you're still hanging out with your friends at the bar that are drinking every night, we have a problem, because there's a disconnect between who you are and the people you're hanging out with. You need new friends. So what about your mission? How clear are you with your mission? Do you know where you are on a scale of 1 to 10 with your mission, your vision, your core values? What about experiences? Some of you haven't been on a vacation in a decade, and that's a problem. Some of you haven't taken your spouse out on a date in months, maybe years. That's a problem. See, we get to curate experiences intentionally. But again, where are we on a scale of 1 to 10? Are we creating meaningful experiences or not? The next one is spirit. What about our spirit? And we're not just talking about your spiritual life with scripture and prayer, but your spirit, like inside you. Who are you? Do you even know who you are? How are you feeling? Your joy and your vibrancy. What does it look like? At what level are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And then finances. Where are we at? On a scale of 1 to 10 with your finances. By the way, if you're like, my finances, what do you mean? Okay, well, if you track every dollar that comes in and you track every dollar that goes out, how much money do you have left over? Because we already know many folks are what? Man, the money ran out way before the month ran out, and then they're putting it on credit cards. Well, what's your side hustle to make that up? Right? How you make an additional income to change that trajectory to where you get to a point where you can't recover, you can't get out of it. So where are your finances at? Does every dollar coming in have a job? Have we assigned a job to every dollar that comes through? If not, okay, then we're pretty clear about our finances. We're probably around a 1 or a 2 as opposed to a 9 or a 10, right? So the last piece is learning. Where are you with your daily learning and your learning curriculum? Do you know what you're studying? And you would, because I don't know what about the time you're listening to this podcast. Several mornings have passed since we did it. But the question is what did you study? What did you study yesterday? What did you study the day before? What is on your agenda to study tomorrow? What are we listening to? And it's not just the podcast, not just the audio books, but what are we physically reading? What are we studying and really digging into? Because we want to go an inch wide and a mile deep with our learning. I read a couple books, Brad, a couple decades ago, actually. One was Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty by Harvey Mackay. And the other one was The Acorn Principle. Know yourself in order to grow yourself by Jim Cathcart. Now, both of them were brilliant networking books. Both of them also said the highest paid people in the world are the best communicators. So figure out how to communicate. So I knew right away that was one area that I would have to deep dive an inch wide and a mile deep is to learn how to communicate verbally, non-verbally, written, all the communication styles, right? So that's one area you can't go wrong with learning that piece. Learning how to speak from a stage, learning how to speak one to many, that is an invaluable skill that everybody in business needs to have. Period. Right? So the other thing is Jim Cathcart, he said, look, if you will read just 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day in the area of your expertise, in 5 years or less, you will be a national expert on that subject. And that's coming back down to what? 10,000 hours. It really just comes back down to that. Let's see. Who was it? The Tipping Point. Remember that? In The Tipping Point by
Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm. Yes. Yeah, The Tipping Point. What is he talking about? He's talking about 10,000 hours. Why is that a tipping point? Because things start moving into muscle memory, right? And then just things automatically happen. There's another one called the Talent Code. And the Talent Code, they went down to South America. I think it was in Brazil, actually, where they play small-sided soccer games, right? All these small-sided soccer games. And they're wondering why these guys are so freaking good at what they do. Because they started when they're 2 years old and they're running around with a ball at their feet all the time. And all they do is play. They just play and dribble and beat people. And it's turning it tens of thousands of hours and turning it into muscle memory. And there was an English team. You went down and studied this whole process, and they brought it back because their team was abysmal, just horrible. And they brought the process back to their entire club, and it wasn't long before that club just took itself to the top. Why? Because they're following the process. And when we figure out what that learning process is of learning how to do the thing, don't be one of those people that just studies, but let's study and implement. Study and implement, because then we're getting that, as Brad always talks about, that 1% better every single day, right? Because if we study it, we implement it, we're going to make mistakes. Great. We're going to tweak it, and then we're going to do it again. And that's the concept of learning. So if you know where you are in each of these categories on a scale of 1 to 10, now we can go through and figure out where do you want to be. So the question is, Brad, let's just talk about health. And I know that you're one of the healthiest people on the planet right now with the habits that you've developed. Like, you have really good habits. But if you wanted to go, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Because I know you literally rate yourself in this every week.
Hmm. Well, man, if I exclude my Weezer concert with my son last night, where where I had some mint candy things, I'm usually probably about like um, an 8 to 9. So
Yeah.
I try to make very clear choices. And what helps me the most, David, is it's a concept called pre-deciding. So before I get myself in a situation, I already decide I'm not going to have that. So if I know I'm going out to eat at a restaurant, and they're like the Cheesecake Factory, my family loves the Cheesecake Factory. And if I decide before I walk in there that I'm not going to have cheesecake at the end, and I'm not going to get a, incredibly fat and sugar and lots of bread in there. I'm gonna do healthy. It makes it a lot easier to decide in that moment because I'm not deciding what my emotions are telling me when I'm looking through that menu. I've already logically made up my mind that this is what I'm gonna do, and then I just follow through with it. So that concept has really helped me in those situations. And then my family knows when we go places, they already have that picture painted of me. They say, "Oh, Brad's not gonna eat this, or Brad's not gonna get this dessert." And I used to be extremely hardcore about it. Like after I did 75 hard, I was just very specific, and I've let loose a little bit, but only just to show my kiddos. I've got a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old, so I'll go out and like get ice cream with them every once in a while. And I think I told you last time, it blew my son's mind. He was like, "Dad, you're getting ice cream?" I was like, "Yeah, buddy. Let's hang out. Like, let's celebrate together." So I think there's that line of showing my kids and my family like, hey, I still want to have fun. We can still do these things. I don't live so rigidly that I'm never gonna eat this or eat that. But if I create that cadence of I have a healthy lifestyle, and every once in a while I can enjoy things with them, um, it's been fun to experiment with that line. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
I love that. You remind me of, I was watching Tony Robbins talk about his wife Sage, and they were out on a
Mm.
date, and, and Sage slyly had ordered something, and it shows up on the table. There's this big old bowl of ice cream, and she takes her spoon and she puts it in there, and she puts it in her mouth. And he goes, "What are you doing?" Right? Because they just eat as clean as you possibly can, and they cut 100% of the sugar out. He's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm living." Right? I'm
Yes. Yeah.
living.
So
And
good.
I saw that, and I'm like, you know what? That brings everything into perspective of we still are going to live. My question for you all is, what does that look like for you? Now, if we want to live as healthy as we possibly can through our retirement years and through all the way through, so that we really get to enjoy our grandchildren, we really get to enjoy life as vibrant and happy and energetic people, the decisions we make today determine what that looks and feels like later. Even Alzheimer's, they're calling Alzheimer's now, they're calling that diabetes of the brain. So the less sugar we consume, the better overall our health is going to be long term. So maintaining that balance, if you will, and harmony with what we do. Brad going to a Weezer concert and taking his son out and enjoying life. Love it. To do that every single night, probably counterproductive. To do that once in a while, you can't put a value price on that, because it's invaluable, the connection that you make with your children when you go and do amazing things like that. So again, we want harmony. It's not necessarily a balance, but we're looking for a harmony in what we do. But so now we know where we are, right? We have rated ourselves in all of these categories. Now the question is, what is your definition of success in each of these categories? Nobody can define good health but you. Only you can define good health. So if we're looking at what is the best health, if I'm in the best health of my life, what does that actually look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? And Brad, I love the fact that you brought up pre-decision making. What is a decision? A decision means that I have decided and there are no other options. This is what's happening. This is what I'm doing. It's not that, oh, I go ahead and get to Cheesecake Factory and, well, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and change my mind. I maybe I'm going to have cheesecake this time. No, 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 no. You already pre-decided. You already pre-decided, so we're not going to do that. Now, maybe I pre-decided, yeah, I'm going to have a very thin slice of cheesecake today. Great. Now you've pre-decided. But don't go against the things you've already decided. If you're going to decide something, then decide it. And then go for it. Stop making choices and start making more decisions. Because Brad, I know you stopped drinking a while ago. I've never had an alcoholic beverage, ever. Because as a child, I decided I would never touch this stuff. Because I have a grandfather and my mother telling those stories of him beating the living crap out of my grandmother and slinging her up against the wall, and to the
Wow.
point where she went crazy and was scratching the walls trying to get away. Like that stuff is real, and it's stuck with me. So I never touched the stuff. I made a decision one time, I will never touch that, and I never touched that. What decision are you going to make? And then there's no retreat. There is nothing, there's no other option for you. You're just doing the thing, right? So what is that in health? What is that with your mental emotional health? What is that with your partner? What is that with your family, your friends, your mission, your experiences, your spirit, your finances, and your learning? Making decisions. That's what this is about. And when we start getting clear about where we are and where we want to go, all we have to decide is one thing, Brad. Do you know what it is?
What's that?
What is the next right action step of integrity for me to take in order to get me there? It's not, oh, what 10,000 steps do I have to take? No, 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 no. I just need one. What is my next right action step of integrity to take right now when it comes to health? For me, I'm going to drink some more water right now.
Go.
There we go. Right? So now it's what's next? What's the next
Love
right
that.
action step of integrity? And what's the next and what's the next? Because all we're doing is living in the present moment. You can't live in the past. You can't live in the future. We can only live right now. So the decisions that we make very intentionally right now is what's going to get us to where we want to be. So that's the clarity side of it. Now, sometimes it's interesting, Brad, we spend so much time on clarity, it's crazy. But it's interesting that when we start talking about clarity, so many times people are praying, oh, they're praying so hard that God will deliver them and save them from all of these crazy things. Love it. And what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? If you remember when the earth was flooded with water the first time, God came to Noah and said, build an ark. Could God have saved Noah and his family without building the ark? Yeah, of course. Could have done whatever he wanted. But Noah would not have developed into the person that Noah needed to develop into in order to start a new nation, had he not had the faith to build the boat. So what is it that we have to have the faith to build in order for God to bless us? Do not misconstrue what I'm saying here. Our job is to do everything that we possibly can, and God will step in with his grace and bridge the gap. But do not think for a second that because you stayed in bed all day for the last 6, 7, 8, 10 years, that he's going to step in and save you from yourself. You still have to get to work. You still have to get out of bed. You still have to go do the thing. Don't think for a second that your laziness all of a sudden transitions into an emergency on somebody else's part. So we got to get out of that and move forward with the actions that we've got to take, right? Because it's again, clarity of where we've come from, where we are right now, where do we want to be, what's the next action step, right action step of integrity to get us to where we want to go. Which, Brad, that leads us to the second habit, which is energy. Energy, 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 baby. Come on. So here's the thing. We summon the energy based on all of the habits that we have around us, all of the little things that are seemingly easy to do, easy not to do. Problem. So let's think about this. So we're done with clarity. But in order to go after the things that we want to go after in life, we've got to have the energy to do it. And that's the next habit, energy. When we need to summon the energy to do the things that we want to do, we get that energy from all of the little habits that we have established for ourselves. They're those habits that are easy to do and easy not to do. So, Brad, if you remember Netflix documentary Supersize Me, did you ever
Yep,
see that?
I did. I remember that one.
Yeah. Somebody, now, don't get us wrong. I mean, we date ourselves a little bit here. That was like 20 years ago, but it was like when Netflix first came out, even. But
Yep.
the documentary was this. This guy said, "Look, I am going to eat McDonald's every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if they tell me to supersize it, ask me to supersize, I have to say yes." So
Has to
this
say
joker, he
yes.
goes in there and he starts eating every single day. McDonald's, 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 McDonald's. 60 days into it, he goes to his doctor, and because he's got these checkups regularly scheduled, and the doctor's like, "Dude, if you don't stop, you are going to die." He's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you can't do this anymore. Not unless you want to die in the next very short period of time. You're gaining way too much weight, way too fast, and your arteries." And anyways, he went into the whole thing. The guy was killing himself. Think about that little decision, easy to make, easy not to make, fast food every day, easy to make, easy not to make. But over time, it's that compound effect. It starts to stack up to ill health. So the question is, what are the little habits that we can establish every single day that over time stack up to tremendously good health? And it's the little things, right? So if we start looking at, okay, well, what actually does good health look like? Well, only you know. So, Brad, health for you is different than other people. But what does energy mean to you, right? Because your energy, what does good energy mean? Tell me about that. Answer that question for me, Brad. What is good energy for you? What level of energy do you want to have?
Yeah, I mean, I want to show up as a 10 every day. And I think you and I have talked about this a little bit. It's it's almost that idea of, if you ask yourself the question of who's the person you want to give your really important task to, is it the person that already has lots on their plate that are really busy, or someone that is doing nothing? And the answer might actually surprise you. It's actually the person that's already doing a lot, because their capacity is already grown to being a high performer and achieving a lot. So all that to say, and even why my energy is a little bit low, is I didn't get up and run this morning. I didn't work out or run because I got home late last night from a show. And I found, even if I'm running on less sleep, if I get a run in, if I get activity in, that I start my day, even if I get up at 3 or 4 in the morning, my energy level is a lot higher. So, so it's kind of counterintuitive. It's, well, you're getting up early, you're putting in a lot of effort and energy, so you should show up tired, but that actually energizes me and helps me reset my brain, reset my energy. So that's what it looks like for me. I know, even my wife sometimes. I remember we had a little tiff, and it was, why are you so grumpy today? Like, why is it on these days you're just so like grumpy or moody? I was like, well, today I didn't go to F3. I didn't go run or work out, and she thought it was an excuse just so I could go every day. I'm like, although I love going, it actually helps me. It creates that energy. So I found the connection between activity and energy in the morning for me um, really helps. It helps me show up as the best version of myself, to make a bigger impact for others, and to keep my energy high. But that one's really important to me. I mean, all these are, but I think like clarity and energy, um, yeah, just showing up with joy and changing the mood of a room. Like that's
Yeah.
high impact. That's what I want to be able to do, is walk through a room and change the energy level.
Think about that. That is so powerful. And you've seen it. Everybody in your audience has seen it and felt it. When somebody
Yeah.
of influence and energy enters a room and they're just like, ah, there you are. And they're there to serve, and you feel that heart. You feel the service coming out of them. It's a beautiful thing. So let's give them a few tips and tricks when it comes to energy and developing energy. So I want you to remember MEDS RX, MEDS RX. And I stole this from my mentor, Brendan Burchard, and I'm going to give it to you. All right. So if I give it away again, that means I get to keep it too, right? So I would highly recommend that anything that you learn here that is relative to you, that actually makes sense to you, that you teach it to somebody else so that you own it,
Yes.
and that you
Love that.
speak your goals to somebody else and speak them into existence, because words have meaning, words matter, and the more you speak it, the more it's going to happen for you. So let's talk about this. Meds RX, meditation. If we will meditate a couple times a day, 15 to 20 minutes, what it does is it helps to de-stress the body. Another piece of that is if you will release your tension and reset your intention every 50 minutes to an hour and a half, you will reduce your stress throughout the day. And what does that look like? A simple release meditation, again, is simply to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and just say in your mind to yourself or out loud, release. Just on the exhale. Release. Now, you think about that for a second. If you spend a lot of time in front of a computer and your eyes are bugging out, right? Well, just 2 minutes of your eyes closed, speaking a release to yourself, all you're doing is you're releasing the thoughts, you're releasing the tension, you're releasing that negative energy that may be inside your body that you've accumulated over the last hour and a half. And when you're done, you reset your intention for, okay, what is my next right action step of integrity? What am I doing next? We get to work. How do I want to feel over this next hour? Oh, I want to feel exuberant. Great. Let's go. Let's get to work. Meditation is huge. Also, if we are not getting the 7 to 9 hours of sleep that we need, meditation helps to make up the difference. So utilizing meditation is a big, big deal. Cat nap, those are great too. Meditations, amazing. All right, so that's your meditation side of it. Okay, exercise. Okay, Brad, I was introduced by a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, to an organization called F3. And it's Faith, Fellowship, and Fitness, right? Faith, Fellowship, and Fitness. And we're out
Yep.
there, and it gives an opportunity 6 days a week to work out with like-minded people, a group of men just getting after it. And there's a FIA, Females in Action for women, if you want to join an organization like that. Anyways, we'll talk a little more about that here in a second. But how much more likely are you to show up and do the workout if you have a community? And I'll tell you right now, I CrossFitted for almost 6 years, and I absolutely loved it, but it was too much for my back. You know, I got this back from too much manual labor as a kid, I think. And anyways, my back doesn't allow me to do that type of activity anymore. So F3 it's a little less impact, but yeah, I still get the workout, and it's a great workout, right? But how much more likely am I to show up because of the community? 100% more likely to show up because of the community. So, anyways, fitness, big deal, right? Exercise. And what does that look like again? Usually 2 days a week cardio and 3 days a week of lifting heavy things, right? Get in the gym and lift some heavy things. All right. Energy, meds, RX, meditation, exercise, diet. Okay, we got to do something different with the diet. Too much sugar is killing you. Too much sugar is absolutely killing you. Caffeine too early in the morning is also not good for you. Your caffeine actually has significantly greater impact if you drink it 4 hours after waking up as opposed to drinking it as soon as you wake up, which is kind of crazy, but it's legit. So when we start looking at diet, what does that look like? More of a whole foods diet, right? We want to start eating things that have one ingredient in it. Something that has 900 ingredients in it. You see all these videos that are popping up all over the place of what Gatorade used to look like, right? It used to have like 3 items in it. It had water, salt, and potassium or orange flavoring or something crazy, like simple. And now it's like the list is 30 things long.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Everything that we're drinking and eating now has been replaced with chemicals. It's crazy. So less chemicals, more whole foods, more things that were actually grown on a tree and pulled out of the ground. All right. So it's not difficult. Again, it's a decision that's easy to do and it's easy not to do that adds up over time to great health or ill health. What's it going to be? Right? If we're going to cut out sugar, great. Maybe we're going to do it sparingly. Perfect. What does that look like? Make a decision and then take the action. By the way, Brad, I don't know about you, but if I don't have the snacks in the house, I don't eat them.
It's amazing. What a concept. Instead of having a bowl of Tootsie Rolls, like a bowl of fruit or a bowl of nuts. How
Yeah,
about
right?
that?
That's a
Now,
good
now,
point.
now, now the real trick is, with kiddos, Halloween coming up. This is where we really got to put our radars up because I know in my house, all of a sudden I've got two or three bowls of like candy corn and chocolate covered pretzels, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to be incredibly intentional, not just to waltz in the house and grab a handful of these and do it without thinking.
I'll tell you what, some of your dentist offices actually have candy buyback programs where they'll
No
like
way.
where they'll take your candy and they will give you like toothbrushes and crazy stuff in exchange.
That is cool. That is neat. How
And then they
powerful.
donate that candy to the homeless shelter and different places like that. So anyways, it's kind of
That's
kind of
cool.
neat when you find a dentist that'll do that. It's kind of funny. Personally, I think they just put it in a bowl and all their employees eat it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's like the hospitals where all the staff smoke in the back on their breaks.
Right? Oh my
all
gosh,
the
yeah,
all the
that's
dentists eat
crazy.
candy in the back.
The other thing is on meditation, exercise, diet. You remember, don't take weight loss advice from a fat doctor. That's all I'm going to say, right? If the fat doctor is telling you what to do, you go find a skinny doctor. And I stole
Okay.
that advice from Zig Ziglar, so it's got to be good. Um, okay, meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. Some of you do not sleep. You sleep 3, 4, 5 hours a night, and you think that's enough. Trust me, 50 years of sleep study says it's not enough. You're like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, David. I am the most productive person that I know. And imagine how much more productive you would be if your brain wasn't inebriated or the equivalent of inebriated every day when you go to work. Think about that. People who go with only 3 and 4 and 5 hours of sleep for even just 3, 4, 5 days in a row, they are the equivalent, their brain function is reduced equivalent to being legally drunk. So, you take it for what it's worth. But the concept here is you need to sleep. You'll be way more productive. You'll have way more energy. You'll get way more done. Your brain will have greater functionality if you just sleep. So this is me giving you permission to sleep. Now, what does that also mean? That means that you're going to have to wind down well so that you can wake up well, which means you got to turn those screens off later on. So when we start talking about sleep, when we start talking about how to sleep, one of the first things is Brendan created the 3-2-1 rule. And I talk about him a lot because I've studied him a lot because I coach his curriculum, right? As a certified high performance coach, that's what I coach. So that's what you get. All right. So when it comes down to it, 3-2-1, 3 hours before bed, 3 hours before bed, no food. And something I learned the other day is, did you know that when the melatonin is starting to be released into the body so that you can shut down and go to sleep, and you also have the insulin that's now in the body trying to break down all the food, when you lay down and go to sleep where you've eaten late, it turns it to fat. It automatically just stores it as fat. So if you think you're trying to lose weight and you're eating these meals super late, you're kidding yourself. You're causing double the work for yourself. So don't eat 3 hours before you go to sleep. All right. Two, second principle here. No work 2 hours before bed. No work 2 hours before bed. Now the last one is 1 hour before bed. No screens. Turn them off. Some of you are like, yeah, but that's my wind down time. I don't care. Turn it off. Use your wind down time as a book, or better yet, some communication with your spouse. Just saying. All right. So again, 3, 2, 1. And again, I'm not preaching at you. I really don't care what you do. I hope you care enough about your life and about what's happening to you that you care about what you do. It's not about me. My life isn't going to change whether you're eating the second before you go to bed or not. It doesn't affect me at all. It only affects you and affects your family and affects your energy. I'm just here to share with you what I found that works. Right? So when we start talking about clarity, energy, meds RX, meditation, exercise, diet, sleep. All right, what's the RX? Relationships. R is for relationships. Now, when we start talking about relationships, ladies and gentlemen, you already know that there are people in your life that are just sucking the life right out of you. Man, there are some people that add to you and there are some that take away from you. My best advice is to spend more time with people that feed you energy and less time with people that suck your life right out of you. And how do we do that if we didn't choose them? What if it's our family members? Great. You get to choose how much time you're going to spend with each one. There's some family members that I could talk to every day. No problem. It'd be great if I had the time to do it. There are other family members, I wouldn't talk to them once a month, maybe once a quarter. Why? Because they suck the life right out of you. Why would you spend more time with them? I'm not going to tell my specific situations here, but I guess I will. I have a family member that I won't talk to about once a quarter. Period. Maybe on their birthday. That's it. And then you have others. I talk to a sister almost every single day. Why? Because we feed positive energy into each other. It's super important. So when you start looking at the relationships that you have, what are they doing for you? Are they feeding life into you, or are they draining you of your energy? That goes to your business associates. It goes to your children. It goes to where? Where is it? And again, only you know what your relationships currently look like, and only you know what you want your future relationship to look like. And we can intentionally design it. Remember, where there is no conflict, there is no growth. So some of these, we may have to just call them out on their negativity. Hey, here's the boundary. When you do this, I'm going to hang up. Just so you know. I just want you to be aware that when you go negative in the conversation, I'm going to hang up. So my dad was one of the most negative people that you ever met. And not because he was negative, just born negative, but because of all the crazy stuff that he went through. Like he was a man who lived in the past. And it's unfortunate because there's so much that he could have done differently. But again, best man I've ever known, even with his negativity. But we got to the point where anytime he'd bring up something negative, I'd flip it to a positive. And he'd tried to bring it up again, and I'd flip it to a positive. And it got to the point where I said, Dad, the next time you flip it to a negative, I have to go. So I would leave. When he'd go back negative, I would step out. So when we start looking at setting boundaries, set the boundaries, but we have to communicate the boundary. Communicate it. Communicate your expectations and communicate your boundaries. It's very, very important with our relationships, because if we don't, what do we get? A whole bunch of disappointment because we never communicated our expectations and we never communicated the boundary. That's our own fault. That wasn't their fault. That was us. We did that. So communicate early and often. And remember, those relationships either breathe energy into your life or they suck the life right out of you. So be very intentional about the people that you bring into your life. All right, the last part, X. What in the world does X stand for? Supplementation. Supplementation. And I will tell you that that Celtic salt, to put some Celtic salt under your tongue every time you drink your water, for those minerals that our food has been stripped of, that our water has been stripped of, how about we put some of that back in the body so that the brain and the body actually function the way they're supposed to? So anyways, for me, I use Celtic salt, or a sea salt of some type, like from the Great Salt Lake. I have a big bottle of that I've been using as well with my Celtic salt. But the concept is, what are the minerals that you're deficient in and the vitamins that you're deficient in, and where can you get them? And maybe it's maybe you need your omega-3s, right? Because we all need those. Your fatty acids. So when we start looking at your health, that's very, very important. Now, some of you, maybe you need to go get tested for allergies. Some of you may be eating stuff that you've been allergic to your entire life and didn't even know it. It's probably your favorite food. It's crazy. But again, if you've never been tested for allergies, it's a big deal to get tested for allergies. Brad, have you ever been tested for allergies?
It's been about 20 plus years, but I have in the past, yes.
How did it turn out? Did you make any changes to your lifestyle because of it?
I was so young at the time, like with my parents. I think it did change probably a little bit, but the truth is, I need to do it again because I can see the impact of how that would change what you gravitate towards and what you run away from.
Yeah, I mean, you have a guy who he ate eggs for breakfast every day, but every day he would break out, and he finally got tested, and it's like, oh, you're allergic to eggs. Oops.
Oops.
The
Yeah,
one thing that the guy absolutely loved, right? So, anyways, when we start coming back down to clarity and energy, we now understand that Meds RX is a game changer when it comes to our energy. So when we do each of those things, when we're ready to summon the energy, when the wife asks us to clean the garage, we can summon the energy to do it. It doesn't take somebody coming along and offering us to go golf 18 holes for us to get that energy to do the thing that needs to be done, right? In fact, we'd have so much energy, the garage would be done before she even asks us to do it, right? Because we're in the business of creating an exceptional relationship instead of just maintaining mediocre relationships. just
love
just
that.
saying, Brad. Just saying.
Yep. Yep. Love that. So we've got, just as a recap, so the meds, so we've got meditation, energy, diet, sleep, and then the RX
Meditation, exercise,
exercise. I'm
diet.
sorry.
Yeah. Meditation, exercise, diet, sleep, relationships, and supplementation.
That's great. I love that. Man, what a cool acronym to remember too. I
Yeah,
think
that
acronyms
makes
are
it so
so
simple.
powerful.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing is if more people understand the concept, more people understand the principles, everything changes. It's amazing how much money is spent on healthcare for unhealthy people when in reality all they would have to do is change their meditation, their exercise, their diet, their sleep, their relationships, and their supplementation, and they wouldn't be in the hospital, they wouldn't be in the doctor's office, they wouldn't be taking all of these medications, and life would be very different for very many people.
Mm.
So the
Yeah.
question is are we going to allow life to happen to us, or are we going to do something intentional about it?
Yeah. There you go. Something I really appreciate too, I think at the beginning of this to kind of bring it part of it full circle is we talk about like taking that next step. And I think sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming for someone that doesn't currently practice, meditation, exercise, diet, sleep. They feel like all that's off. It's hard to know where to start. And I think what I'm hearing from you, David, is just the idea of just take that next step. You don't have to immediately go to a like a superhero level. If I'm going to exercise every day, I'm going to get up and do this thing every day. I'm going to start all these things. But I think just taking a conscious step. I always like to use the phrase of like chopping wood. Like, hey, let's just
Yeah,
chop a little wood today. Like, just take a simple step towards it. And I feel like even leaving from the show today, listeners here, if you just write down that acronym of Meds RX and you start thinking about every single day, like intentionally, how are you? We always like to say this in F3 too, like, how are we getting 1% better? How are we doing like a little bit of meditation? How are we doing that release technique that David showed us? Maybe just bouncing in the chair and doing that for like 30 seconds. Just try it and like be like, I meditated today, or I took a walk around the block. I think
yeah,
there's what I'm learning a lot too from you, David, is that it's the celebration of the small wins. We don't have to have like only celebrate our gigantic victories because it's who we're becoming in the process on the journey to get to this peak, and that peak continues to change, right? Like
that's
you
right.
think once you get there, you're like, even myself, I know you're saying all these nice things about me. I'm like, man, I've got so much further to go. But a year from now, I'd be like, man, I can't believe, I've done this amount of like ultra marathons and I've done all these things. And it's like, a year ago would have been like, man, I hit the goal. And now I'm like, man, I've got so much further to go. So, but that idea of how you're just making that small, simple progress, and I love the acronym. And one thing I'll add to on the meditation, I don't know what you think about this, but when you do the meditation, something that can be really helpful and neat is this act of visualization. So just thinking
Yes.
about what would it look like as your most the best version of yourself. Like I know when I was doing at the time, I was doing like the Wim Hof breathing technique and closing my eyes and following along. So
Hmm.
whether you're doing Wim Hof or the release technique, I would think about like, man, what would be how do I show up as the best father, the best husband, making the biggest impact I could in my work? Like, what would that actually look like? And when I would
Yeah.
close my eyes and breathe, I would be thinking about that. And you get to this amazing, deep meditative place where it feels real.
Yes.
And it's kind of like that
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill's law of attraction. When you plant that seed in your brain now has a true north, and you start going towards that direction. And because you have this longing to make that visualization a reality. And
Yeah.
it's hard to live with that gap between, right? It's like I have to figure this out. And then guess what? You start figuring it out when you start taking those little actions.
You're absolutely right. When you start looking at meditation and visualization, the whole concept of visualization is we're living it, we're creating it spiritually before we create it physically. All right, just like the world was created spiritually before it was created physically, we were created spiritually before we created physically. Everything we do, we create it spiritually and we can speak it into existence, and then we get to work making it happen. So when we start looking at, okay, what does my ideal health look like? Perfect. Visualize yourself as already having attained that level of health. What does
Mm.
that look like? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? How do people react to you? So, when you are visualizing that and you're visualizing action, what is it that you do as the healthiest version of yourself? What is it that you do when you're in the best relationship that you've ever been in your entire life? What do you do when you're in the most passionate relationship and living life on purpose? What does that feel like? Because we've got to get into the emotion of it in order for the subconscious to pick that up and make it a reality. Because
Mm.
reminding everybody that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between something vividly imagined and felt and something that actually happened. It thinks it's the same thing, it's an experience. So the more vivid and vibrant and lively we can get it, the more it's going to come to pass. So, how clear are you with where you are and where you want to be and what that next action step can be for you? Now, and Brad, this is a lot different than a coaching session, because in a coaching session, I don't talk a lot. Like you do all the talking. I'm just asking a lot of questions, right? So it's a
Yeah,
little
this
bit
is
different
great.
in the teaching side of it. But
Mm.
y'all, when it comes to clarity and energy that we've talked about today, like these are two of the most important six high performance habits. When in reality, all six of them are vital. But clarity and energy, everything starts with clarity and energy. And then where do we focus, right? As Tony always says, where focus goes, energy flows. So where is your energy currently flowing, and where do you want it to flow in the future?
That's
And
great.
then what can I do right now to shift where that energy is going?
One thing I want to add to, you made the comment of just sitting in bed and hoping and praying that things get better, and we have that responsibility. I think one of my favorite verses is Philippians 4:13, and it's I can do all things to Christ who gives me strength. And I think if we look
Yes.
at that, if we deconstruct that, it's Christ has given us the ability to do these things. If we look about the meds RX, to meditate, to exercise, to diet, to sleep, to
Yeah.
work on our relationships, to feed the right things to our body. He's given us everything that we need to pursue the things that we want to pursue to have the life that we want to have. It's not the magic wand if we just show up in our life by accident of our dream realized life. Um,
That's right.
so, just to add an extra layer to what you said, I completely agree with that. And that's one thing I can't tolerate and I get really upset about is folks that are just lazy and they want these big things and they just don't, there's just no action to move towards those goals. No
I
action.
think I think the last side of it, Brad, is that God has never put into someone's heart a dream, a vision, a goal that he also hasn't placed within you the capacity, the ability to do the thing that's on your heart.
Hmm.
So if we can believe in ourselves as much as God believes in us, we can make things happen. We absolutely can make things happen. So let's get to work. All right, let's do the thing. Let's get after it because that's going to make all the difference in the world. Let's build some momentum, forward momentum. You always notice that people that are moving and shaking and getting crazy things done, they're always given more. There's always more put in front of them. And that's because they have earned the right to do more.
It's good. I can't think of a better way to end on that powerful note. It's so good. So I want to give a quick shout out, David, and then I'll let you kind of tell where people can find you. But guys, so if I truly do believe this, that everybody needs a coach in their life, and it's a sign of strength and not weakness to get help and accountability in coaching. I mean, think about all the greats in every area of life. They all have coaches. And even our kids, like my we're about to bring like a, I mean, you can call him a teacher, but like a guitar coach for my son. Like my Harper does cheer, like she's got a cheer coach. So why do we stop doing that as adults and think we should just figure it out on our own? Doesn't make sense. So
It doesn't.
it doesn't make sense. And I can tie a direct correlation to when I had coaches in my life to when I had the most fulfilling and the most progress and excitement in my life. And even just someone to celebrate with. Like, who are you celebrating with? Sometimes it's hard to come home to just wife, right? And you tell her some wins of the day. And her mind's on like the grocery list of the day. And it can be just lonely not having someone to celebrate those wins with you and help you continue to sharpen strength. And so um, that doesn't mean David is the right coach for everybody, but I will tell you guys, if you don't have a coach and you really want to take your life and skills to the next level, and I've been following Brendan Burchard too for a long time. I've read his books. I actually have his planner open right here. I do his planner almost every day, and I will just say, just have a conversation. David's going to share where you can just have a quick meeting with him. The purpose of this podcast isn't like a trickster sales podcast to get like people to book with David, but he's been generous enough to make himself available for a session. And I can tell you the passion and love that he has for people is unparalleled. Like, I'm a little bit jealous of even sharing him with you guys to be like, you guys should go get with him. But I will tell you, if anything that he talked about here resounded and you you want to explore what that looks like, David's going to share where you can just connect with him, hop on his calendar. It's the same energy and vibrancy and excitement in life that you're getting right here in this podcast. But imagine it one to one. Like when David and I have conversations, I get to spend an hour with him every week. And it's these kind of conversations. And he's almost brought me to tears every single time with self reflection and rating myself and knowing how to show up to my family and workplace. And I'll just leave it at that. But I highly recommend, guys, just have a conversation with them. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You get better. I mean, come on. But David, if folks want to connect with you, where can they go find you to grab a
It,
quick call?
Brad, it sounds like now I have been relabeled the guy who makes you cry.
The guy who makes you cry. Yeah, it wouldn't be a wrong
Uh,
label. Wouldn't be a wrong label.
Tears of joy, tears of joy. You can catch me at davidadamspeaks.com. So www.davidadamspeaks.com, and again, watch the quick little video that's there, and just schedule a one-to-one. Now, the one-to-one meeting, I have to admit, like, I don't work with everybody. I I can't. I don't have that kind of time, and so I'm very choosy with who I work with. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I take care of everybody that I talk to in some way, shape, or form. So that first conversation, it's literally just a coaching session. Like, I'm not selling you anything. We literally are just digging into your life to see how well you take direction, to see how interested you are in your own growth. So it's not even, again, it's just for you. It's not about me, it's about you. So if you care enough about yourself to schedule just a simple 1 hour consultation, it's not a consultation, it's a 1 hour coaching session. Man, I'm going to go deep with you. We may get through six habits, but chances are we're going to get through maybe one or two habits if we go really deep. Like if you're honest with me about where you currently are, then we'll talk in depth about how to get you to where you want to be in that one category. So again, it's not a sales presentation. It's literally a 1 hour free coaching session so you understand what coaching can feel like and what it can look like for you. And I appreciate your time in listening or watching this podcast, however you're viewing it. But thank you for your time. And Brad, man, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I think thank you for bringing your A game, guys. Let's give David just a huge shout of thanks. And if also you know anyone in your life that you think needs a coach and that this would benefit, share this episode with them. Right? Sometimes it's the smallest hinge that can swing the biggest door. It's that one podcast. It's that one audiobook. It's that one thing, and that can change someone's minute, day, and honestly life. Like it could be that one thing that helps be the spark, and that's not some magic like hoorah, like mystic thing. It's just how we live, right? It's like if we have that idea and we need it at that time, that can take us from thinking one way to completely having us turn around and think another way and change our actions and change the results that we get. Um, but guys, thank you for listening. This has been the Think and Grow Show, and we do this, just to help bring great coaches like David to the table. Sometimes we share marketing insights. It's not like just a digital marketing show. It's not just a coaching show. It's really just a performance education time where you can learn to get better and improve yourself. So you guys are the small percentage that actually care and that are showing up, and you should give yourself a pat on the back just for that you're here. So make
Yeah,
sure to connect with
absolutely.
David. Go to David Adams Speaks. We'll put the link in the show note. David, thank you for being here, and we will catch you guys on the next episode of the Think and Grow Show.
Pleasure. Thanks, guys.